Hello world, this is Alan Jones and I welcome you to the first edition of Sunday Sit Down. Today I want to speak just briefly about the Tiger Woods situation. I want to make three quick points, none of which deal with what the news media and the traditional gossip rags are speaking of, and we can all hear that at the water cooler. But I want to point out three thoughts that I thought were salient to the situation, regardless of he said, she said. First of all, Charles Barkley mentioned a couple of years ago, and I heard another local broadcaster mention the same thing here recently, about how someone in a certain position should date a certain type of woman. And I thought that was pretty elitist at the time, but looking at it now, I kind of see what they're saying. I still don't think that, this whole economic mumbo jumbo stuff is really relevant. I think you date who you want to date. But there's a salient point that when you are Tiger Woods and you're a billionaire and you're dating someone who feels like maybe they have an opportunity to win the lottery, that when enough money is thrown their way or they have nothing to lose, you're going to get thrown under the bus. And I realize that is kind of cold and making a judgment on these women, but I think it's not so much a judgment of them. I think anyone in that position who's at a certain income level, and that sounds very elitist. I really hate to even say that, but I see the point that they're making, that Tiger had opportunity to attract or to be with a number of different type of women that would have had something just as much to lose as he, who would not be so willing to give their story to the tabloids. So I wanted to make that point. And that's not a moral judgment one way or the other, but I think that is a point that, which actually goes to my second point. I think Tiger was someone who, if the reports are true, someone in Tiger's position, there are men who cheat, I think, who don't actually believe themselves to be adulterers or believe themselves to be cheating. In other words, to be a cheater. They may cheat, but they don't consider themselves to be that guy. And I make an analogy there to young women who find themselves sexually active at a young age, or younger age than they wanted to be sexually active, who do not use birth control. And that has always been such a conundrum to people in the community, how these people, young women, could be active sexually and not use protection. But I think it's a similar thought process where one doesn't accept the reality of what one's doing. That one just made a mistake, one slipped up, all these things happen, but then, and 10 activities later or 10 events later, you're still in denial about what it is that you do. Okay, now to that point, the saving grace may be there that even though, we say, well, this is stupid what Tiger did, or we say this is stupid what these young ladies do, I think that holding on to that vision of who you think you could be, I think there's something good in that, even though you say, well, okay, well, that's stupid, because, if you're going to have affairs and have affairs, that you should be more thoughtful about them and be more intelligent about them, per se. But being intelligent about these things denotes premeditation. And I think a lot of people, to premeditately say to yourself, well, I'm going to go out and cheat today. I'm going to just intentionally cheat on my spouse. I think that's a line in the sand that a lot of men and a lot of women are unwilling to cross. They don't want to accept the fact that they are that person that they despise, that the society despises, and they just can't accept that, even though they're doing that. Okay. And thirdly, and this is a touchy subject, but I think that I had a gut reaction when all this came about, quite honestly, as an African American male, thinking about how Tiger Woods is, regardless of what he says, but being a man of color, that it seems like in our society that there's just always this waiting for the other shoe to drop, that another black man or man of color being brought down and torn down. But I think that even though there may be a smite of racism involved, I think really what a lot of it is that in our society, being the first black man to do this, there's so many firsts still occurring, so much of putting people on pedestal and people of color, because it's such a rags to riches story, and the American psyche really loves that. But the American psyche, the other side of that blade is that the American psyche also was a tragedy. It's like the Roman days, and a tragedy of magnificent proportion is what this is. And I think that's the draw. Not that he's a black man that's fallen. I'm sure it's a small segment of the population that has some glee over that, but I really think that's the minority, very much so. But I think a lot of it is that, it's such a unbelievable story. Such an unbelievable story that I think that with him and other people of color who have ascended, I think that being on that precipice is, like I said, a double-edged sword. And unfortunately for Tiger, I think that is adding some fuel to the fire. The same thing with Michael Vick and other people, even though there seemed to be an extra level of viciousness and the way he was portrayed in the media, somewhat, and maybe that's justified by the viciousness of which he treated these God's creation. So maybe that's justified. But it does seem to be a common theme. But I think it's deeper than just when we stop and we put the racism label on. I think that's too simple an explanation. I think there is a domino effect throughout the history of both the African American experience and the majority experience in this country we call America, that has led us to this framework and this context to where these events play themselves out almost without, inevitably play themselves out. So I think there's something deeper going on there that I know 200 years from now will be a moot point, regardless of what you see posted on comments on YouTube, that eventually we're all going to be, you look at history, you see what happens. It's going to be a big melting pot. So all of this will be mute, 200, 300 years from now. But today it's a reality. And, at some point in the future I may speak on that too, but I think that it runs deeper than just saying this is a race issue. It's more to it than that. In a sense, it's the story of America. And that's my 3 points on Tiger, and I'll leave that alone for now. But I do want to mention that next week, next Sunday, in Sunday Sit Down, I will be starting a series about the economics of relationships. Okay? I don't want to give too much away there, but just how you can apply the rules of economics to male-female relationships. Supply and demand, baby. Anyway, talk to you next week. Hope you all guys have a great, productive week. Remember, focus, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.